Just recently, a health concern prompted Queen Elizabeth to be advised by her doctors to stay at home for a period of 2 weeks and not make any public appearances. This incident occurred shortly after the royal figure was seen using a cane to get around. Among other things, doctors are advising 95-year-old Queen Elizabeth to quit drinking if she wishes to see next year's Platinum Jubilee celebration. Reportedly, she's been known to drink up to 4 alcoholic beverages a day. On top of that, despite doctors' orders, she's been seen driving around her property in her Jaguar. Join Trender as we examine how Queen Elizabeth's health is not looking so good in recent days. Just recently, after a health incident in October, Queen Elizabeth was advised by doctors to stop taking public appearances for 2 weeks. It appears that health concerns around the royal figure are growing at an alarming rate, and officials are doing their best to keep her alive until next year's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Though the Queen has been advised to stop making public appearances temporarily until her health improves, she's appeared virtually with a few ambassadors. Queen Elizabeth was hospitalized overnight on October 20th, 2021, after which her doctors examined her and told her it was best to take a 2-week period of rest. Though the Queen has been performing light duties, she seems to have taken the doctor's advice as far as laying low, except for the fact she's been spotted driving around the surrounding property of Windsor Castle in her Jaguar. Queen Elizabeth traditionally only uses her Jaguar to transport her dogs around for walks. It's uncertain whether or not her dogs were in the car with her when she was spotted, though it is known the Queen was advised not to do any dog walking during her prescribed period of rest. If all goes to plan, the Queen will be attending the National Service of Remembrance, which is set to occur on Sunday, November 14th. It's the Queen's duty to preside over this celebration, and she's intending to honor it. The Queen has only missed the celebration 6 times during her nearly 7-decade tenure. 2 of those were the result of her pregnancies, while the other 4 were related to international visits. The Queen and her officials are adamant she will be attending the celebration, though she will not be attending the previous day's Festival of Remembrance. The National Service of Remembrance is an annual celebration meant to honor British citizens who have served in wars. It's a huge event for the country, and it would be a pretty big deal for Queen Elizabeth to miss due to a health-related concern. The service is just a part of the Queen's upcoming busy holiday schedule, which will lead into the Platinum Jubilee celebrations next year. Officials are once again maintaining the Queen, who will be 96 years old by the time, is going to be alive and well. Queen Elizabeth had already been fairly busy in October leading up to her surprise health incident, but the royal figure had been seen using a cane to get around for a period of time. She had to cancel a planned trip to Northern Ireland when hospitalized, which she regretted having to do. Subsequently, she's regretted not being able to make all the planned trips she was supposed to make in the time she's been resting. Upon arriving at the hospital, Queen Elizabeth was held overnight for tests, then released the following day. On October 21st, the day after her hospitalization, she was reportedly well enough to resume light duties at Windsor Castle, including desk work. The day before the hospitalization, the Queen had played host to a variety of world business leaders for a global investment conference. The reception apparently went well. Besides the aforementioned trip to Northern Ireland that Queen Elizabeth was forced to cancel, the Queen has subsequently had to cancel a trip to Scotland to appear before a summit regarding the climate. Despite these cancellations, the Queen has been able to perform some of her duties virtually. On October 26th, she was reportedly able to meet with ambassadors from both Switzerland and South Korea through virtual means. Queen Elizabeth and her officials are adamant that the royal figure is going to make it to next year's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. The celebrations will mark the Queen's official 70-year anniversary on the throne. If the Queen makes it, she will be 96 during the highly anticipated event. Despite this recent health episode, reports say the Queen has been in relatively good health and in good spirits the past few years. She had a dark period after the death of her husband, the late Prince Phillip, and she was cooped up inside due to COVID-19, which couldn't have been good for morale. Despite this, it seemed as if the royal figure was doing well for herself in the months leading up to this recent hospitalization. One of the things doctors have advised Queen Elizabeth to do is to give up alcoholic beverages. Thankfully, it doesn't seem as if doing this will be that big of a deal for the Queen due to the fact that most reports suggest she only drinks 1 or 2 alcoholic beverages a day. However, other reports suggest there are days when the Queen may drink as much as 4. Still, the royal figure appears to only drink casually and claims she won't miss it too much. Despite that, officials have stated they're saddened to have to see the royal figure give up one of the few things she has that makes her feel good after the death of her late husband. The Queen's favorite drink is reportedly a dry martini, which is a preference she shares with Prince Charles. Besides her nightly cocktail, the Queen was reported to have also previously enjoyed having a glass of wine with dinner and the occasional glass of champagne before bed. Since the Queen's illness, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has come forward with the news that the Queen is feeling well, but he reiterated it was important for her to follow the advice of her doctors, which means she'll continue to refrain from making public appearances until November 14th. Despite what the Prime Minister and doctors have to say, the Queen has been spotted outside of Windsor Castle driving in her Jaguar. The Queen traditionally only drives the vehicle to transport her dogs when walking them. She had a headscarf and sunglasses on at the time, so it was hard to tell what the royal figure's facial expression was. For the most part, the Queen has preferred not to drive around too much in her old age. Prince Phillip notoriously quit driving before his death after getting into an accident, and the Queen was said to have quit driving on public roads herself soon afterwards. Despite this, the Queen has continued to drive around on Windsor Castle property and was also seen on public roads in late 2020. It's uncertain whether or not the Queen is actually capable of driving, as she has never had to pass a driving test. She's infamously allowed to drive around without a license, which is one of several laws that the royal figure can break. She's also been seen a few times recently on the royal family's social media. A few photos of her October 26th meeting with the two aforementioned ambassadors were shared on Instagram to show the public the Queen was still alive, relatively well, and keeping busy. Her late husband, better known as Prince Philip, died in April. After the death of her husband, she was devastated for several months before seemingly making a recovery. However, it remains to be seen what kind of impact this latest hospitalization and subsequent period of prescribed rest will have on the longtime leader's psyche. The planned Platinum Jubilee celebrations will be extravagant should they occur. They occur on a 4-day holiday weekend coinciding with Thanksgiving. They will include a large pageant in London featuring several thousand performers. There will also be a live concert at Buckingham Palace. And the Queen is expected to tour around the UK, which will allow her to celebrate her 70-year anniversary with her people. So as long as the Queen doesn't have her nightly cocktail and any other alcohol, doctors and officials are confident that the 95-year-old figure will make it to next year. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think the Queen's going to make it to 96? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Trender if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.